YouTube, how are we doing? Welcome back to the channel. Now, I don't think I've ever talked about Marvel so far on this channel. We have not spoken of Marvel yet, but I will say, I for one, do believe that I have some controversial Marvel opinions. Now, I think right now, in time, is the perfect time to make a Marvel tier list because where we are in the Marvel canon, in the Marvel filmography, like, where is it going? Are we gonna get a major spike in great movies, or is it just gonna stay like mediocre, shitting out movies every single year for the rest of the Marvel lifetime? But you know, unless something incredible goes on with Marvel, I don't see much of the history being altered. I don't see many things changing. I just think from this point on, I don't have too much high hopes for Marvel. So I think right now is the best time to get all my basic Marvel opinions out there. We got a nice looking tier list here. Not too many movies compared to my rap albums tier list that I made a couple weeks ago. Holy shit, that took a while. But not just MCU in this video. We are counting all the Marvel films ever from like Howard the Duck in the 80s, which I have not seen yet. Hang on, the first row here is not seen. I'm just gonna fill that up really quick with the movies I have not seen. Okay, those are the ones that I've not seen. I have not seen the third Blade movie. Don't want to watch Howard the Duck personally. That animation, or CGI rather, has not aged well. I have no interest of watching that shit. Morbius, I've heard it is the most boring, mediocre Marvel thing ever. And I'm gonna be honest, even though it would be funny to shit on that movie horrendously, it's been done before. I'm not just gonna copy everybody else. I don't want to watch it. Probably never will. Venom Carnage. Have not got across to seeing this. I plan to see it in the nearby future, but have not yet. And then the Origins X-Men movie, I have not really gone to yet. The New Mutants, it still does look quite interesting, so I may watch it in the future. But yeah, with that said, let's get into it. MCU, X-Men, Fantastic Four, all the side shit. Let's get into the video. And wow, we are starting off strong. Ant-Man and the Wasp. If it wasn't for later on Phase 4 just being spine-breakingly disappointing, Ant-Man and the Wasp would be an actual pain, but Ant-Man and the Wasp was just so fucking forgettable. The villain was so bland. The dialogue was so corny and cheesy. The third act was so shitty and slow. The Wasp as a character overshines Ant-Man in this movie, and they're both just wicked uninteresting. I can't say enough shitty things about Ant-Man and the Wasp. I mean, I saw it in theaters, so it should like extend or enhance my experience of the movie, but rather it just brought it down. This movie is dog shit, dude. And then Ant-Man, the first Ant-Man movie. I thought this was just average. It was just an average movie to me. It wasn't offensive. The villain was okay. Paul Rudd as a superhero, and I'll say this till the end of my days, Paul Rudd should not be a superhero. It doesn't work. His character is boring. Ant-Man is boring, and I just don't have good opinions about this movie. Now, is this... That's Age of Ultron. Okay, Age of Ultron, definitely the most shitted on Avengers film, and I will for one say this movie did not age well. It did not age well. The CGI did not age well. Ultron as a villain did not age well. Although it did carry the Avengers comedy and comic value a little bit more, it didn't age too well. I'm gonna put Age of Ultron probably in decent or good for now because again, similar to Ant-Man, I don't think it's too offensive. All right, and then Endgame. Endgame. Let's talk about Endgame, man. It's just the perfect scenario. The ending of an iconic storyline. Iron Man, basically the main protagonist. Thanos, one of the best villains we've gotten in films. It's just the perfect scenario. Everything just works so cohesively in this movie. I can't say enough great things about Endgame, man. I mean, I know a lot of people prefer Infinity War. Infinity War, also lovely. Infinity War introduced us to Thanos, brought all those characters that came out after Age of Ultron into the Avengers. But Endgame, man, it was just the ending. It has that, what do you call it, just the advantage of being like the heartfelt emotional ending of something so great. This could be, the end of Marvel. That could have been the end of Marvel. We didn't have to go to Phase 4, but we did. But this to me was the end of Marvel, the end of the characters we love, Iron Man, Hulk, Great stuff, man. Both these films are great. I prefer Endgame. I know a lot of people think Infinity War is like the greatest thing ever. Big Hero 6, decent or good. When it came out, holy shit, this was like the greatest animated movie ever. Over time, I don't know if it aged too well. And I do agree with the statement that people really only think this movie is great because it's so sad and it just rips your heart firmly. I know you can't make the taking away argument, but if you take away his brother dying within like the first couple scenes, this movie wouldn't be nearly as good. But it's still good. Baymax is still witty and comical. The main character, I don't remember his name. He was a good character. It's a good movie, man. I don't really have too much judgment against Big Hero 6. It's just we're working with a really great collection of films right now, so I think it fits pretty good indeed. Black Panther, decent or good. The CGI, some of the best in Marvel. Black Panther, a great a great main protagonist, but I think other than that, this movie is beaten out by plenty other Marvel films. And then Wakanda Forever, if it wasn't so damn long and it didn't take so long to get into the good stuff of this film, I would put it in decent or good, but I'm gonna put it in mid for now, just because it's such a long, drawn out movie, and for a movie that already has characters that I'm not too interested about. I know there's the Jabaris and Okoye, and the new Black Panther is pretty great. Princess is what I'm talking about, but most of the film I'm just kind of uninterested. The blue people towards the beginning and the middle act are just boring. It is mid. It's not a terrible movie, but I'm gonna put it in mid for now. I think it fits pretty well there. Black Widow, forgettable. Definitely forgettable. The beginning was strong. It was promising with the prison escape scene. Dave Arbor. That was some great scenes, but it just dies out fast. All those boring dialogue scenes towards the ending. No, thank you. The first Blade movie, good. The second one, wait a minute. That's Blade 2. I'm gonna put Blade 2 in mid, and I'm gonna put Blade first one in decent or good. Some of the most unique Marvel films ever. Vampire. Wesley Snipes is a badass. Definitely a good, reliable Marvel movie to watch if you just want to steer clear of like the MCU basic gimmicks. The Blade movies are pretty enjoyable side pieces, but the first one's definitely a lot better. Civil War. I forgot this movie existed, but now that I look back on it, it was kind of like the Avengers, but not the Avengers. I was side Iron Man when the movie came out. I'm gonna be side Iron Man forever. I don't like Captain America. Not a big fan of the guy. Not a big fan of Chris Evans. Robert Downey Jr. is just a better actor by far, so I'm gonna go with Iron Man. I think Civil War is good. That's a good movie. And I also think the first Avenger was pretty good too. These are my two favorite Captain America movies. Now, I stated earlier that I have some hot takes for Marvel movies. And here's my first one. Now, I respect the risk to take an espionage film, you know, kind of go out of the basic Marvel canon. The Winter Soldier is a boring movie, bro. It's just boring. Like, I've seen it multiple times. Black Widow's decent. Captain America didn't do anything special. Bucky is just, they try to get you with him emotionally, but dude, he's just so boring. He's nothing different from like an early X-Men villain, you know? He's just really, really boring, but I guess the effects are good. It feels like a nice, decent spy Marvel film, kind of like Black Widow, just definitely better. But it's still just a really, boring mid-average movie. I'm gonna say it. I don't care. I know a lot of people slob all over the Winter Soldier. It's not my movie, man. It's not my movie. All right, let's move on. Uh, Captain Marvel, probably the first, but Captain Marvel was like it's a Disney movie. It feels like a Disney movie from like the Disney Channel. Not even like a genuine Disney film, just like a shitty Disney low budget movie, like Descendants or some shit. I don't know if that's Disney, it might be Nickelodeon, but it feels like Descendants, literally. From the CGI and all of it. It feels like a damn Disney movie. Captain Marvel sucks. Brie Larson sucks. Everything about this movie sucks. The villain sucks. Sad. How it could have just been so great. They take such an overpowered character in the comics and just slaughter it. I will say this, I think there's worse Marvel movies. It's still actual pain, but there's worse Marvel movies. Daredevil, it's just forgettable, I guess. I watched it when I was really young, never came back to it. Oh, Dark Phoenix, because of the cast And because I'm a sucker for the early X-Men actors rather, I don't think I'm gonna watch Dark Phoenix. So that's gonna stay not seen, and it's probably forever gonna stay not seen. Okay, Deadpool. I fucking love Deadpool. These movies are fucking so fun, bro. These movies are awesome. The first one, that's gonna go to great. And I think the second one is gonna go to great too. Even though the second one, dude, when I left the theaters after that movie, I was this movie is just the second one is so much fun, bro. The villain, how funny it was, the action, the new characters they added on and how they all worked. Juggernaut, the Deadpool 2 works in so many ways and the risks it take, it's just such a fun movie, bro. It has like Guardians of the Galaxy-esque comedy to it with obviously more rated R elements, but dude, Deadpool 2 is just such a fun movie, bro. And Deadpool 1 too. Deadpool 1, I'll put in good, just because why watch the first one when you can watch the second one, you know what I mean? And yeah, I think, and then I'm probably gonna put these two Captain America movies down here. I'll be honest, I just don't like Captain America. Never did, probably never will. You know, how he's kind of just an asshole in the Avengers movie, so I always left a bad taste in my mouth. Doctor Strange, the first one, is mid. Alright, Phase 4 Marvel, here we go. Oh, is this Elektra? That chick is fucking jacked. But I have not seen Elektra. It gives me Mortal Kombat vibes. I want to see it, but I have not seen it yet. Multiverse of Madness. Now, I watched this not too long ago during my catch up to Phase 4. Multiverse of Madness is, I guess, Wanda. She's not bad as a villain. The emotional elements with her story isn't that bad. The CGI is shit. The subplots are shit. The zombie, when Doctor Strange becomes a zombie, that is one of the most cringy scenes in all of Marvel. Handily. That shit was so fucking cringy, bro. Like, oh my gosh. So I'm gonna have to put this movie in forgettable because I literally saw it a couple days ago and I already forgot about it. It's just a bunch of multiverse shit, so I don't know. Eternals though was actual pain. Eternals, you had such a great cast, so much potential. You had a decent villain. Eternals was bad, man. But there are just so many more worse Marvel films, you know? But I'm gonna put Eternals in actual. It was painful to watch. It was actually painful to watch and sit through this long ass movie for no reason. The villain was decent, but that's the only thing that's going for this film. And the 2015 Fantastic Four. What do we name it, guys? What do we name it? No, no, no. I got a better name. Worst movie ever with a question mark because that is a genuine question. The 2015 Fantastic Four is so sad, bro. You had Miles Teller, you had Michael B. Jordan, you had the new design for the Thing, and you failed that miserably. You were trying to make a comeback with a already failed comic book to film adaptation. You had like more than 5 years to do so, and you failed that miserably, bro. That is just so sad. This movie starts, they do all the training, you meet all the characters, and by the time they get to like the villain, the villain part, the third act, it just ends. It feels like the movie just ends. Like I can't really explain it much better than that, but this movie just ends, and it feels like there should be a sequel, but there's just no sequel. It just ends there. You know, it's one of the worst movies I've ever seen, pretty handedly. Quantumania, one of the I didn't even finish this movie, bro. Quantumania might be the worst MCU movie. It was sad to watch. Marduk looks like Shark Boy and Lava Girl, George Lopez. He looks like the villain from Shark Boy and Lava Girl, but Shark Boy and Lava Girl is a 10 times better movie than this in every single aspect. You know, from emotional connection, from writing, I don't care. It's just 10 times better. And the George Lopez villain was sad, such a failure. You take such an overpowered comic book character and a guy that was even so overpowered in like the cartoons and the video games and like the Lego video games, so overpowered and awesome, and then you make him that. You make him that, bro. Like, what the fuck? And how over budgeted this film was. Worst, one of the worst movies ever. The two, I'm gonna put both of the yeah, I'm gonna put both of the original Fantastic Four movies in here, just because I think the actors weren't that bad. I know Chris Evans was in there. I just shit on Chris Evans, but I honestly like Chris Evans in Fantastic Four more than I do in Captain America, and that probably just blew some minds. I don't care. But the Thing, I thought he was funny. A shitty character, obviously, objectively, but when I watched this when I was really young, I didn't mind it. You know, it is very painful to watch these movies, but it's like so corny and cheesy and shitty, and the CGI aged so poorly that it's almost like enjoyably shitty. You know, kind of like a Slenderman-esque shitty. I think both of those movies go in actual pain. The Silver Surfer and the original. All right, now, excuse me. We have the Ghost Rider movies. Which one's the first? Anyways, I think the first Ghost Rider movie is very underrated. I think the first Ghost Rider movie is fun. Nicolas Cage is a great protagonist. The villain is sinister as shit. You know, the mature aspects of this movie are so enjoyable. The fight scenes are enjoyable. It may have not aged too well back in its prime. Back when I was younger watching this movie, I enjoyed the shit out of it. Fun fact, Ghost Rider used to be my favorite superhero movie back when I was younger. Of course, the second one is just not forgettable, but just really mid. I like the setting in the desert, but it just doesn't have the, I guess, the advantage of being the first. Ooh, we are getting into the good stuff. Guardians of the Galaxy, the first one. No, I'm not putting it in decent or good. I'm putting that shit in great. The first Guardians of the Galaxy, it was funny, it was witty, new characters. Star-Lord, you know, Chris Pratt as the main protagonist. He's probably a top 3 Marvel character, or a top 3 Marvel protagonist, rather. He's so funny and witty, but at the same time, his emotional depth is there, and it's awesome. You know, the side characters, like Drax, is amazing, and it only gets better. Um, Not necessarily in the second one. I think all the subplots in this movie are great, and the side story. What's the guy's name? Kurt Russell in this movie is pretty great. Yondu's pretty great in this movie. I just think the first one's a little bit more exciting than the second one, but the comedy is still there, and you know the second one is still a great movie. It's not great because it's not in the great tier, duh, but it's still a pretty good movie. I agree with all the criticisms it gets, kind of just like a drop off in action and comedy and you know interesting characters. I still think the emotional value in the second one is just very strong, very strong. So I think people that like the second one, that's a good enough point to put it up here. So, but for me personally, I'm gonna put it in decent or good. Oh man. Now I talked earlier about I think right now is a good reason to depart from Marvel because I just think the MCU just released one of their best movies ever. Guardians of the Galaxy 3 is a top 3 lock for me. It is a top 3 lock in Marvel films. Where do we even begin? Jesus, there's so many things to go over. Everybody in this movie is funny, is witty, the writing is amazing, the pacing is amazing, comedy is amazing, the plot on the alternate Earth, awesome, High Evolutionary, awesome, Drax is amazing in this movie. What's that actor's name? What's his name? The guy that plays the metal guy. Yeah, Will Poulter as Warlock. Awesome addition. And then you got the Rocket Raccoon storyline. Finally, we get his origins. And dude, Rocket may have the most heartbreaking and tormentous background story of any Marvel character. Guardians of the Galaxy 3, it's just the perfect ending to Guardians, the perfect ending to all the important characters we had from the Infinity Saga. This movie made me retire from Marvel. I'm gonna say it. I retire from watching Marvel movies until something groundbreaking comes out. But you know, this movie was just perfect, bro. I can see Guardians being a 10 out of 10 movie. I can see this just an awesome fucking movie, bro. I can't say enough good things. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 isn't just one of my favorite superhero movies ever. It's probably now that I've seen it, one of my favorite movies, period. Star-Lord, spoilers alert, but Star-Lord going to Earth at the end, so emotional. The music, you got the Flaming Lips in there, you got Florence and the Machine song in there, dude. You got Reasons, just a perfect movie, every single aspect, bro. I can't say enough. Okay, so we just finished talking about one of the best movies ever. How about we talk about a movie that's not horrendous but forgettable? The 2003 Hulk. I don't mind it. I think some people shit on it just because Hulk looks funny, but as a movie, it's not that bad, bro. It's kind of entertaining. I mean, the villain kind of forgettable, but beyond that, the Hulk is a pretty interesting character in this movie. So I'm just gonna put it in forgettable because I don't have too many harsh criticisms on it. Iron Man. I recently rewatched this in school actually. Iron Man aged pretty well. I think the comedy's there. Robert Downey Jr. is great. I don't know if yeah, the first Iron Man movie is great. Ironmonger, awesome twist villain. He's great. Pepper Potts is great in this movie. Robert Downey Jr. is so funny. Iron Man aged so well, and for being the start, what kickstarted the MCU, bravo. That movie has aged tremendously. Iron Man 2. Now I know people shit on this movie. I think Iron Man 2 was decent or good. I liked the villain. I didn't mind the villain. I liked the machines near the third act when they all come attacking. I thought that was one of the most exciting acts in Marvel at that time. As Marvel went on, we just got better stuff overall. But I think Iron Man 2, when it came out, it was pretty solid. And I know it gets shade for whatever reason, mainly because of the villain, but I did not mind the villain personally. So I think Iron Man 2 was decent. Iron Man 3, the villain was, I know he's kind of praised upon just because of his relevance in the comics, but I thought Iron Man 3 was just pretty mid. I think what Tony goes through in this movie is pretty iconic, and that's probably the best thing about the movie, point blank period. But besides that, I just think Iron Man 3 is kind of a boring movie. Ooh. Logan's going straight to lovely. Logan is probably, if not for Guardians 3 or Endgame, the most emotionally devastating movie in Marvel. Oh my god, bro. And I'll say this now, Wolverine is one of my favorite characters in superheroes. Just how unhinged he can become and how he just starts slicing motherfuckers up. He's iconic. Logan, such a sad movie, such a great ending to such an iconic franchise, such an iconic character. Logan is, I can see it being one of the best movies ever. These all four of these movies so far that I have up here, I can see being considered amongst some of the best movies ever. Punisher. Now let me tell you a fun fact about Punisher. Thomas Jane is a great in this movie. I forgot John Travolta was in this movie. I just looked at the cast of this movie. When I was younger, I fucking adored this movie. I loved Punisher when I was younger because it was just so mature compared to most Marvel films. Thomas Jane was great, like I said. I got Max Payne vibes from this movie. Probably if I watched it now, I would hate it. So I'm not going to spoil the memory and rewatch it. I'm just going to say for now, Punisher, just for being like an epic revenge story, it's a decent or good movie. Warzone, however, that was actual pain. Warzone was a fucking major drop off. All right, now speaking about the Phase 4, speaking of the multiverse saga, Shang-Chi is one of the better movies we got from Phase 4. Probably one of, top 3 best movies in Phase 4. Shang-Chi was actually really great. Shang-Chi was an exciting ass movie, bro. I'm just gonna say it from right now. Shang-Chi, it was a unique story. Aquafina was good in this movie. The main character was great in this movie. I think the subplots with the family, the setting is awesome. And most movies at the beginning of the film, it takes some time, especially speaking about Marvel films, it takes time to get into the good stuff. Most of the time, you got to get through a lot of boring build up to get to the climax, and that's where the exciting shit happens. Shang-Chi starts really strong in the city, meeting Shang-Chi's character, and him learning about the five rings or whatever. That was a really interesting arc in the movie. And I saw it in theaters. Ooh. Ah, man. I see a lot of great movies. I see a lot of great movies right now. Spider-Man, Spider-Man, Spider-Man. Easily, yeah, without question. Spider-Man has the best filmography in Marvel, the most consistent movies in Marvel. Spider-Man 1, lovely. Spider-Man 1, lovely. Spider-Man 2, top 3. Spider-Man 2, I loved how there's multiple villains in one movie. You know, the emotional aspects that we got in the first one with, Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin. First of all, Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin is one of the best villains ever. And then we got more than one villain in this movie that was almost up to par with Green Goblin. The movie starts off with Sandman, which is just such a strong start. And then you got Doctor Octopus, and you got all the emotional elements in this film. Spider-Man 2 is fucking great. And that is a top 3 lock for certain. My gosh. My gosh. Spider-Man 3, also good, bro. It's just a good movie. It's a fun movie. Bully Maguire, not just because his memes were popping up all over the place like a year or two ago. I just liked this movie as a whole, I liked the Bully Maguire, how he just became like a kind of a sub anti-hero. Did not mind Venom in this movie. I don't mind Spider-Man 3. Of course, it's not the Titans as Spider-Man 1 or 2. It goes 2, 1, and then 3. That's how I rank the Sam Raimi trilogy. Homecoming. Homecoming is high great, probably. Probably not better than Deadpool 2, but high great for certain. Homecoming introduced us to, as the Raimi trilogy just felt like very, important. This was like the high school Peter Parker. It was a more laid back, relaxed, just enjoy it, chill, friendly neighborhood Spider-Man story, and it was amazing. More focused around, of course, Peter Parker's character and Tom Holland. Far From Home. Is that Far From Home? Far From Home. I know a lot of people think this is kind of a drop off from Homecoming. I agree. I still think Far From Home is a pretty, just because of Mysterio, great. Because I think Far From Home is better than Age of Ultron. I think Far From Home is definitely better than Deadpool 1, Guardians 2, or Iron Man 2. So yeah, Far From Home definitely deserves a spot in great. Just because, of course, Iron Man in this movie, awesome as the mentor to Peter Parker. Tom Holland is still great in this movie. Like I said, Mysterio, amazing villain, one of my favorites in Marvel. So I think this is a great movie. It qualifies for great, even though there is some downsides, like Ned's kind of annoying, but it's still a good movie. Into the Spider-Verse. Tiger. Of course, it introduced the amazing, polished, beautiful, actual like comic book to cinema animation, but there was some annoying spider people in this movie. I think the spider people become better in the second Spider-Verse movie, which we're gonna get to later on. But I still think Spider-Verse is great just for introducing Miles Morales and his father, Captain Morales, is one of my favorite characters. I just need to rewatch it maybe a couple times, but I think it's great. It's still a great movie for what it did to Marvel and the Spider-Verse, and how it just like how it just introduced that like mind-bending multiverse aspect. It's a great movie for sure. No Way Home, lovely. No Way Home is an absolutely lovely movie. What are the criticisms against it? I mean, Ned's not annoying anymore. You have the emotional scenes. You have Willem Dafoe coming back. You have Tobey Maguire coming back. You even have Andrew Garfield coming back and being better in this movie than he was in both the Amazing Spider-Mans. Even though I think Andrew Garfield was still great in the Amazing Spider-Man movies, but this movie, every actor is at their best. Iron Man is amazing. Iron Spider-Man with the new suit, awesome. So many villains in this movie, great. Can't say enough great things about No Way Home. Usually when I see a Marvel movie, I watch it in theaters, and this is the case for Shang-Chi, even though I still love Shang-Chi. I watch it in theaters, and I'm like, wow, wow, that movie was awesome. That movie was fucking great. That movie was so fun. And then like a week later, I'll forget about it. Dude, I never forgot about No Way Home. No Way Home was just a great movie, for sure. The Amazing Spider-Man. The first one's okay. The first one is decent or good for sure. Introduced Andrew Garfield. The romance was pretty good in this movie. The villain, the Lizard. I know people shit on him, but I think he had a really great cinematic third act with the fight between those two, and the entire scientific element in this movie. Harry Osborn. Amazing Spider-Man 2. I don't even want to talk about it because everyone's just gonna, oh man, if you like Amazing Spider-Man 2, what the hell is wrong with you? I'm a Jamie Foxx fan. I like Jamie Foxx in this movie. I don't think it's forgettable as fuck or Actual Pain or one of the worst movies ever. I think it's just decent. I think it's maybe up here and decent or good. But Amazing Spider-Man 2, I liked the aspects of that movie that most people disliked. So I think it's just gonna find its way in mid. Avengers, the first Avengers. Now, the first Avengers, you could make the impact argument, like you can a lot of the beginning origin stories, but I think has not aged that well, but it's still a wicked exciting movie, and it still was the come together of all the Marvel characters in such a chaotic, grand way. So I think Avengers is still great nonetheless. Now, The Incredible Hulk. Yes, there's nostalgia for this movie for me. I loved how it's so much more darker than most Marvel films. You have the narrator from Fight Club, Edward Norton, as the main character. I liked the villain Eli Roth in this movie. I thought the Abomination fight at the end was amazing. I thought the romance was okay, and even if you didn't like the romance, it didn't intrude the plot too much. I thought, the Gamma was a cool aspect, and although the Incredible Hulk, I guess, hasn't aged too properly when it was at its prime, and it's a great movie, man. I'm sorry, the Incredible Hulk. I don't see the criticisms. I mean, do people think it's boring or something? Like, why do people hate this movie? Like, I've never gotten a clear answer to why people think The Incredible Hulk is a bad movie. I've never gotten a straightforward answer. Maybe because, oh, it's boring and the comedy's not there. Well, yeah, if you want comedy, bro, go watch fucking Quantumania or, like, Thor Love and Thunder, bro. Like, I'm sorry. I don't mind the serious aspects in Marvel movies, and I like The Incredible Hulk. The Incredible Hulk is great to me. 2013 Wolverine, that was a great movie. I love the Eastern setting. I like Wolverine as a character. I like the villains. The fight scene was awesome. The beginning of the movie, how we're introduced to Wolverine in the war, and how this movie is probably, besides Logan, of course, this movie shows the most tormented state of Wolverine we have gotten, and possibly the most unhinged and psychotic Wolverine we've gotten, besides maybe X-Men 2. But the Wolverine 2013, it's a great movie. It's underrated. Not a lot of people talk about it. People just pass it off as like a uninteresting side story, I guess. But The Wolverine was an awesome movie. From the cinematography to the fight scenes to the storyline, it's a great movie. All right, the Thor movies. The first Thor, I liked it. It was a decent or good movie. I always loved Thor. He's always been one of my favorites, even though he's not in the best movies, obviously. I just liked how overpowered Thor was, and of course you still have Odin in this movie, and all like the Asgard characters, and how Thor is just a badass in this movie. And he's not like overly comical like he is in all those later Thor movies. It's just a really good origin Marvel story, I thought. The cinematography aged well in Thor, so yeah, I think Thor is good. The storyline is somewhat boring. Thor: Love and Thunder. Now, this movie is so incredibly, disastrously cheesy and corny and just disgusting looking that it is almost enjoyable. It is so shitty and so comically such a failure that is honestly not painful to watch. I'll put it in forgettable. Thor: Love and Thunder. Listen, man, it's a shitty movie. It is probably like, I don't know if you guys ever seen the Epic movie, how it's literally just a bunch of parodies. It's parodies on fantasy stories like the Chronicles of Narnia movies, and it's just a bunch of I think Kumar from Harold Kumar's in there, and it's just a bunch of shit jokes and like disgusting jokes that don't hit ever. And Thor: Love and Thunder is literally the epic movie, but the MCU's epic movie. The cinematography is terrible. The action scenes are colorful and they're not that bad, but Thor is literally, he's just making jokes the entire movie. I mean, like, what the hell? Like, what the hell? I guess as a movie, when piecing it together, when it comes to like movie standards and being objective, this is one of the worst movies ever. Because you're going in a downward spiral at this point. When Thor: Love and Thunder was released, you just fail that miserably. I mean, Christian Bale as the main villain, Christian Bale, the Dark Knight, you're gonna fail that bad as a villain, and how gimmicky the villain was, dude. And like, dude, the floating head scene and all the shitty jokes, and the Asgard, it's like a normal, Scandinavian town. Yeah, Thor: Love and Thunder, even though it's so incredibly shit that I enjoyed it somewhat, it's still a terrible movie. Point blank, period. All right, Thor: Ragnarok, much better, funny Thor movie. It's still mid because I don't really like Loki as a villain. I thought the fighting scenes were cool. I thought Korg was a great character. I thought it was exciting and colorful. But besides that, it was just boring and way too funny. Thor: The Dark World, that is just forgettable. Thor doesn't even have powers for most of this movie. The Natalie Portman romance just completely invades the movie. So yeah, Thor: The Dark World is just forgettable as fuck. Easily. Alright, Venom. I put Venom Carnage in here because I haven't seen it yet, even though I plan to. First Venom, I didn't mind it. I liked Tom Hardy as Venom. Obviously not overly exciting, but I liked the music, I liked the cinematography, I liked the design of Venom's character. That was badass. I didn't mind it. If it's not decent or good, definitely safe on mid. X-Men Apocalypse, don't care. Sorry, that shit was just, honestly, just because they just washed every memorable character in X-Men out of it, I'm gonna put in actual pain. You know, but it wasn't painful to watch. The villain was just so overpowered. You know, Michael Fassbender, he was just so overpowered that it was kind of entertaining. So I guess I will just put it in forgettable. Days of Future Past, easily one of the best X-Men movies. That's going to go in great for sure. X-Men, the first one. Now, as it was a disappointment because Cyclops' character, all the X-Men movies, this is not just a criticism to the first one, he never got his chance to shine on the screen. But because I love Cyclops in the animated series and shit like that. But the X-Men movie was still fun. It was like a cool little origin story. How Rogue and Logan meet at the beginning of the movie. I'm not going to say it's mid. I'm going to say the first X-Men's pretty good. It could have been better. Sabretooth was a shitty little side villain to Magneto. And this also movie is kind of just slow when it shouldn't be slow. And it goes by way too fast when there's fight scenes. So I'm going to put it in decent or good for now. First Class is now hot take. I guess First Class was decent. It was a decent movie. You know, I just wasn't a fan of taking Wolverine out of the cast. But, or, you know, completely reducing his role as a Marvel, as a X-Men character, because this is more of the origins focus, obviously. But you know, Beast is decent in this movie. Professor X is decent in this movie. James McAvoy decent in this movie. So yeah, I'm gonna put it in decent or good. The Origins Wolverine movie, dude. This movie could have been so much better. It could have been so much better, bro. I think Victor was a good villain. Wolverine, he's too much of a nice guy in this movie towards the latter half, even though it was so promising towards the beginning. They don't even focus on his like backstory nearly as much as they should. It's an origin story and they just completely don't even focus on like how he got his metallic skeletal superpowers or anything like that. So I think I'm gonna put the Wolverine Origins movie in mid. The Last Stand, hot take. I like The Last Stand. I think it's decent or good. Jean Grey is great in this movie. Magneto is sinister as shit in this movie. It's sad. You know, most of our, you know, Professor X dies. Of course, Cyclops isn't in here, so that's kind of sad. The Last Stand as an ending to the original trilogy, it was good. I know some people don't like it. I guess it hasn't aged too well, but that third act, bro, it was entertaining. It definitely was. You know, the big fight scenes, it was a good movie, man. I don't see the criticism for The Last Stand, I'm just gonna be honest. X-Men 2. Now, this movie was just way too long. Of course, it's still definitely as good as 1 and 2, or 1 and 3 rather, just because Wolverine is like the main character, and he's a complete psychopath in this movie, especially towards like the end and the mansion scene. And of course, the action is great in here, and it has aged tremendously. And Mystique is great in here, much better than she was in the first or the third. Mystique is a badass in this movie. I'm gonna put this in decent or good. So yeah, that's pretty much how it goes. Days of Future Past, definitely the best X-Men. I guess the second would be the original trilogy. What is the best X-Men movie? I don't know, man. I don't know what the best original trilogy X-Men movie is. If I had to choose, I will probably go the second one, and then I'll go Last Stand, and then I'll just go, even though they're all just good movies. And then we have it. The last movie we are going to talk about today, Across the Spider-Verse. Okay, and this is going straight to Lovely. Across the Spider-Verse as a bridge to Into the Spider-Verse, which was like just a lot of build-up of characters and introducing the multiverse. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. You know, they could have easily just said, okay, let's expand upon the multiverse. Let's just go deeper into the multiverse, deeper into the Spider-Man, the Spider-Verse. But they don't. They flesh out Miles' character more. They flesh out the family dynamic more. I mean, you can watch my mini review on it. Dude, I love this movie. How they fleshed out the family. You know, the ending is so good. and they left us on a cliffhanger that makes Beyond the Spider-Verse, Beyond the Spider-Verse, how they finished off this movie, Beyond the Spider-Verse can easily be a top 3 Marvel movie ever, depending on how it goes. So they just need to make sure that's a great movie. But, Gwen was great in this movie, Miles was great in this movie, the animation was even better. Miguel O'Hara was a badass anti-hero. Spots, of course they're going to touch on him in Beyond the Spider-Verse. This was just an amazing bridge between Into and what is going to be Beyond. That will do it. That is my tier list. Hang on. I gotta choose a movie out of Lovely. I'll just go Endgame. I'll go Endgame. These are my top 3. I'm gonna say it. I think Guardians 3 is probably the best Marvel movie. For sure the best Marvel movie, I'm actually gonna say. And then Endgame is number 2. Hi guys, this is Cameron from the future. I just said something very stupid. Endgame is not better than Spider-Man 2. And then Spider-Man 2 is number 3. And the rest of this list is not ranked. So there it is. I'll slowly scroll through. Now that you guys know my Marvel opinions, you can shit on me, you can praise me, do anything you'd like to make yourself happy in the comments. These 3 movies are some of the worst movies ever. These movies were just painful to watch, forgettable. That is my ranking of the Marvel movies, all of them. No animated features, no shows in here. So yeah, that will do it. Of course, thank you guys so much for watching. This was a blast to make, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.